It started with a call from my sister, Beth. Her voice, usually so bright, was tight with a frustration I couldn't place. "Mom's being difficult again," she sighed, and I knew instantly what she meant. Our mother, in her early 80s, had started to fade, her memory a patchwork quilt of vivid past and blurry present. What I didn't know was that Beth had already begun to re-stitch that quilt, carefully, deliberately, until the pattern was entirely her own, and I was left out in the cold. The smell of dust and old would hit me first, a quiet, lingering scent that felt wrong for our mother's house. It was just a few weeks after Mom moved into assisted living, a painful but necessary transition after her last fall. Beth had been the one to orchestrate it all, to her credit, handling the details with a brisk efficiency I sometimes envied. I'd driven the 6 hours to help clear out some of Mom's things, to start the slow, somber process of letting go. As I walked through the quiet rooms, each object felt heavy with memory. The old upright piano, a silent sentinel in the living room. The chipped teacups in the kitchen, witnesses to countless family breakfasts. "She really is declining fast, isn't she?" Beth said, coming up behind me, making me jump. She was holding a stack of mail, mostly bills. "It's hard to watch." Her voice was soft, laced with genuine sorrow, and I nodded, feeling the familiar ache in my own chest. We spent the day sorting, sifting through decades of a life lived fully. Beth took charge of the important documents, the bank statements, the utility bills. "I'll handle all the paperwork for the assisted living, the finances," she'd assured me repeatedly. "You don't need to worry about any of that." I'd been grateful, honestly. My own life was chaotic then, 2 young kids, a demanding job. Beth, always the more organized and financially savvy one, seemed perfectly suited to the task. Over dinner that night, at our favorite greasy spoon, Beth brought up Mom's will. "You know, I asked Mom about her will a few times, just to make sure everything's in order," she said, pushing a fry around her plate. "She just waved me off, said, 'Oh, it's all handled, dear.' But I don't know, it worries me. What if it's not actually done, or it's really old?" I remember a flicker of unease, but I dismissed it. Mom had always been meticulous about such things. Plus, Beth had seemed genuinely concerned, her brow furrowed with worry. We talked about memories instead, about Mom's sharp wit and her terrible singing, and for a few hours, the looming shadow of her decline felt a little less heavy. I left the next morning, feeling a little lighter, convinced that at least the practicalities were in capable hands. I couldn't have been more wrong. Weeks turned into months, and Mom settled into her new routine, albeit with increasing confusion. Beth, true to her word, managed everything related to Mom's care. She'd send me sporadic updates, a photo of Mom smiling, a brief text about a doctor's appointment. "It's a lot, honestly," she'd text once. "But I'm handling it." I called Mom regularly, but her conversations became increasingly fragmented, looping back to childhood memories or asking for Dad, who'd passed away years ago. It was heartbreaking. Then the calls from Beth started to shift. They weren't just updates anymore, they were laced with a new kind of stress. "I'm having such trouble with Mom's finances," she'd say, voice tight. "She's so disorganized. I can't find anything." Or, "Her bank statements are a mess. I think she was paying some bills twice." I offered to come down and help, but Beth always demurred. No, you have enough on your plate. I'll get it sorted. It's just frustrating." She made it sound like a burden she was heroically shouldering alone. One afternoon, she called with a more urgent tone. "I think Mom needs a new power of attorney," she announced, without much preamble. "The old one, I can't find it anywhere, and frankly, I don't think it covers enough. I need to be able to make decisions for her medical care, too." A knot tightened in my stomach. Mom had a POAs, I was sure of it. I remembered her telling me, years ago, that she'd updated her estate plan, including POAs for both of us, just in case. But Beth was insistent. No, she was so forgetful. "I've looked everywhere." I think she lost it, or never actually finished it. She explained that she'd found a local attorney, a friend of a friend, who could draw up new documents quickly. "It'll just be for me, though," she added, almost as an afterthought. "It's easier if it's just one person to deal with the banks and doctors. You're so far away, it just makes sense." I hesitated. But Mom always said we both had POAs, I said, trying to recall the specifics. Wouldn't it be better if we both signed? Beth sighed, a theatrical sound over the phone. Look, I'm the one here, doing all the work. It's just a practical thing. And it's only for the POAs, not the will. The will is still the will. Her logic, couched in practicality and her perceived self-sacrifice, began to wear me down. She sounded exhausted, overwhelmed. Fine, I said, finally. But just make sure everything is above board. She promised it would be. Of course, she said, her voice instantly lighter. I'd never do anything to hurt Mom, or you. It was a promise that would come to haunt me. Months later, the calls continued, each one a subtle tightening of the screw. Beth was now Mom's sole power of attorney, and she used that authority to control everything. She'd changed Mom's bank accounts, she told me, to make them easier to manage. She'd sold off some of Mom's old furniture, to cover expenses. Each time, I felt a prickle of unease, but I rationalized it. Beth was doing the heavy lifting, and Mom was declining. It made sense that things needed to be streamlined. Then came the call that truly broke through my complacency. I can't find Mom's will anywhere, Beth declared, her voice sounding genuinely panicked this time. I've looked through every single box, every file cabinet. It's just not here. My heart plummeted. This was different. This wasn't about minor financial adjustments, this was about Mom's legacy, her final wishes. What do you mean it's not there? I asked, my own voice rising in alarm. Mom was so particular about her will. She told me she had it updated years ago, and that a copy was with her attorney. Beth scoffed. Well, if she did, she certainly didn't tell me who the attorney was. And her memory is so bad now, she wouldn't remember anyway. She suggested that Mom, in her confusion, might have misplaced it, or even destroyed it. The idea was absurd. Mom was many things, but forgetful about legal documents was not one of them, especially not her will. We argued, a rare and uncomfortable thing for us. I insisted she search again, that she contact every attorney Mom had ever used. Beth promised she would, but her tone was dismissive, as if I was being overly dramatic. Days later, she called back. No luck, she reported, sounding weary. I called a few places, but none of them have anything. I think it's just gone. What are we going to do? She floated the idea of having a new will drawn up for Mom, to at least have something. My alarm bells were ringing loudly now. A new will, drafted by Beth's chosen attorney, with Mom in her current state. It felt like a blatant attempt to manipulate the situation. I told her absolutely not. Mom made her wishes clear years ago, I said firmly. We need to find that original will. The conversation ended in a stalemate, a coldness between us that had never existed before. The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken accusations. I knew, with a dreadful certainty, that something was profoundly wrong. My sister's dismissive attitude about the missing will gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't telling me everything, or worse, that she was actively hiding something. I started making my own calls, discreetly, to old family friends and distant cousins, asking if they remembered anything about Mom's legal affairs. Most didn't, or simply reiterated that Beth was handling everything. But one afternoon, an aunt, Mom's older sister, mentioned something that jolted me. Your mother was always so careful, Aunt Carol said, her voice raspy with age. After your father died, she got everything in order, put all her important papers in that little safe deposit box at the old bank downtown. My heart leaped. The old bank downtown. Mom had banked there for decades, long before the big national chains took over. Beth had claimed she'd checked all the banks. Had she really? Or had she conveniently forgotten about the one Mom had used for so long? I called Beth immediately. Aunt Carol mentioned Mom had a safe deposit box at the old downtown bank, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Did you check there? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Oh, Beth said, her voice suddenly high-pitched and unnatural. That old place. I didn't even think of that. I assumed she'd closed it years ago. The lie hung in the air, thick and undeniable. Why would she assume that, when she was supposedly diligently searching for Mom's documents? Her story about searching everywhere for the will now crumbled. A cold dread settled over me. I insisted that she go to the bank immediately and check the box. You have the POA, you can access it, I reminded her. She reluctantly agreed, her voice laced with an annoyance she didn't bother to hide. I waited, nerves frayed, for her call. It came later that afternoon. Well, you were right, she said, her tone flat. There was a box. And, the will was in it. There was no apology, no explanation for her previous oversight. Just a grudging admission. A small victory, I thought, but it felt hollow. Why had she hidden it? What else was she hiding? The discovery of the will felt less like a resolution and more like the opening of Pandora's box. The moment Beth admitted she'd found the will, a wave of relief washed over me, quickly followed by a cold, hard suspicion. Why had she lied about searching? Why had she pushed so hard for a new will? The answers were about to become painfully clear. Can you send me a copy? I asked, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I want to review it. Beth hesitated. It's pretty old, she finally said. And honestly, it's just the standard stuff. Nothing exciting. Her dismissiveness only fueled my resolve. Just send me a copy, Beth, I repeated, a little more firmly this time. Today. She finally agreed, though I could sense her reluctance even through the phone line. She scanned the document and emailed it to me within the hour. I opened the attachment, my heart pounding. The will was dated 10 years prior, long after Dad had passed, and precisely when Mom had told me she updated her estate plan. It was thorough, meticulously drafted by a reputable estate attorney Mom had used for years. I skimmed through the usual clauses, the appointment of executors, both Beth and I were named, the standard funeral arrangements. Then I got to the distribution of assets. And that's where my world tilted. Mom's estate was to be divided equally between Beth and me. That much was expected. But then I saw it, a specific bequest. A substantial sum of money, a significant portion of Mom's liquid assets, was explicitly left to a particular charity that Mom had supported for decades, an organization dedicated to animal welfare. And then another, smaller but still significant amount, was left to her beloved church. These were not just vague wishes, they were written in clear, unambiguous legal language. There were also specific instructions for the sale of the house, with proceeds to be divided equally. What was glaringly absent was any mention of Beth receiving a larger share, or any gifts Mom had supposedly made to her during her life. This was Mom's final, balanced, and deeply considered plan. I reread the clauses, my mind racing. Beth had been telling me for months that Mom's expenses were mounting, that she was struggling financially. She'd talked about needing to sell things to cover costs. But the will made it clear Mom had ample provisions. And then the truly chilling realization hit me, if this will hadn't been found, if Beth had succeeded in convincing me to draft a new one, those charitable bequests, the equal division of assets, they would have been erased. They would have simply ceased to exist, replaced by whatever Beth had wanted. My sister hadn't just misplaced the will, she had intended for it to disappear, taking Mom's true wishes with it. My hands trembled as I stared at the email, the cold, clear words of Mom's while mocking Beth's carefully constructed narrative. The charity, the church, these were significant sums. If Beth had successfully convinced me the will was lost and pushed through a new one, those funds would have simply disappeared, presumably into her pocket. The betrayal was like a physical blow. I called Beth back, my voice shaking with a fury I tried desperately to suppress. Beth, I have the will, I stated, not bothering with pleasantries. Why did you tell me it was lost? Why did you push for a new one? There was a pause, a moment of silence so thick it felt like she was physically recoiling. Then, her voice, carefully modulated, cool. I told you, I thought it was lost. And Mom's memory is so bad, who knows what she really wanted now. Don't insult my intelligence, I snapped, losing my composure. This will is clear. It leaves money to the charity, to the church. Things you never mentioned. Things you clearly hoped would disappear if a new will was drafted. Her denials came quickly, a torrent of excuses. No, that's not fair. I was just trying to help Mom. Her expenses are huge. I was worried we wouldn't have enough to cover everything. Enough for what, Beth? I pressed, my voice rising. Enough for you. This document is 10 years old. It predates Mom's severe decline. It's her true, considered wishes. She started to cry, a high-pitched, almost theatrical wail. How can you accuse me of this? After everything I've done for Mom. I'm the one who's been here, day in and day out, dealing with all of it. She twisted the narrative, framing herself as the victim, the long-suffering daughter, while I, the distant sister, was unfairly attacking her. Her tears, however, felt hollow to me. They didn't ring true. I remembered her casual dismissals, her insistent narrative about Mom's disorganization. It was all a calculated deception. I want a full accounting of Mom's finances, I said, my voice firm despite the ache in my chest. Every bank statement, every expense, every receipt since you took over the POA. And I want it by the end of the week. She hung up on me. The phone clicked dead, leaving a ringing silence in my ear. The battle lines had been drawn. My sister, my only sibling, had revealed herself to be a stranger, capable of a betrayal I never imagined. The day after the furious phone call, I found myself in the office of an estate attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Davies. I had compiled everything I could, copies of Mom's will, Beth's texts and emails, the timeline of her increasingly insistent calls about the missing will. As I laid out the story, I felt a knot of shame in my stomach. How could I have been so blind? So trusting? Ms. Davies listened patiently, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she leaned forward, her gaze direct. Your sister, as power of attorney, had a fiduciary duty to your mother, she explained. That means she was legally obligated to act in your mother's best interest, and to keep meticulous records of all financial transactions. If she withheld information, misrepresented facts, or engaged in self-dealing, taking funds for herself that were not authorized, that's a serious breach. She reviewed the will, noting the specific charitable bequests. If this will had been lost, and a new one drafted without those provisions, it would be extremely difficult to prove your mother's original intent, especially given her cognitive state, Ms. Davies confirmed. Your sister's actions, particularly her insistence that the will was gone and her push for a new one, are highly suspicious in light of finding the original in a safe deposit box she claimed she didn't know about. The lawyer advised me to formally request all financial records from Beth in writing, setting a clear deadline. If she fails to comply, or if the records reveal unauthorized transfers, we can petition the court to have her removed as POA and potentially pursue legal action for financial elder abuse and breach of fiduciary duty. The words, financial elder abuse, hit me hard. It wasn't just about me and my inheritance, it was about Mom, vulnerable and trusting, being taken advantage of by her own daughter. The thought made my blood run cold. Leaving Ms. Davies' office, the weight of the situation felt heavier than ever. I wasn't just fighting for my share, I was fighting for Mom's dignity, for her true wishes to be honored. The idea of taking my own sister to court was devastating, a path I never imagined. But what choice did I have? The betrayal was too deep, the potential harm to Mom too great to ignore. True to form, Beth ignored my formal request for financial records. She didn't respond to my emails or answer my calls. It was a stonewall, a clear signal that she had something to hide. With Ms. Davies' guidance, we filed a petition with the court, requesting that Beth be compelled to produce the records and, if necessary, removed as Mom's power of attorney. The legal process was slow, agonizing, and emotionally draining. The court ordered Beth to provide the documentation. What arrived weeks later was a chaotic mess, disorganized bank statements, missing receipts, and large, unexplained withdrawals. It was a paper trail of neglect and, as Ms. Davies pointed out, potential malfeasance. There were numerous cash withdrawals, some for thousands of dollars, labeled only as Mom's expenses, with no supporting receipts. There were also transfers from Mom's accounts directly into Beth's personal account, again, with no clear justification. My sister's defense was flimsy. She claimed Mom had gifted her the money, or that she had used the cash for small things Mom needed. But the amounts were far too substantial for small things, and Mom, in her current state, was incapable of making such informed decisions. Beth had also drastically understated Mom's remaining assets to me over the past year, painting a picture of near poverty to justify her management decisions. The actual bank statements told a very different story, revealing a healthy nest egg that was rapidly diminishing under Beth's care. It was clear she had been systematically siphoning funds from Mom's accounts, all while insisting she was the selfless caregiver. When confronted by the court, Beth's composure finally cracked. She became agitated, defensive, and even belligerent, accusing me of trying to steal from Mom. The judge, however, saw through her performance. The evidence was damning. It wasn't just the money, it was the pattern of deception, the repeated lies about the will, the deliberate obfuscation of financial information. My sister, the one I had trusted implicitly, had systematically plundered our mother's estate, all while presenting herself as the heroic caretaker. The unraveling of her deceit was complete and utterly heartbreaking. The courtroom felt cold and sterile, a stark contrast to the boiling emotions inside me. Beth sat across the aisle, avoiding my gaze, her face a mask of resentment. The judge, a quiet but firm woman, delivered her findings. She ruled unequivocally that Beth had breached her fiduciary duties as power of attorney. The evidence of unauthorized withdrawals, unexplained transfers, and the deliberate concealment of Mom's true financial state was undeniable. The lie about the missing will, and the attempts to draft a new one, were cited as further evidence of Beth's intent. Beth was immediately removed as Mom's power of attorney. The judge appointed a professional conservator, a neutral third party, to manage Mom's finances and medical care. This was a relief, knowing Mom would finally be protected, but it came with its own painful sting. Our family's affairs, once private, were now overseen by a stranger. The judge also ordered Beth to repay the misappropriated funds to Mom's estate. The exact amount was still being calculated, but it was significant. Beth's protests were met with a stern silence from the bench. She had gambled on my ignorance, on Mom's vulnerability, and on the strength of her own manufactured narrative, and she had lost. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt no triumph. Only a profound sense of loss. The sister I had known, the one I had loved and trusted, was gone, replaced by a stranger who had prioritized greed over family, over even our own mother. The legal victory felt like a hollow echo in the vast emptiness where our relationship used to be. The betrayal had not only impacted Mom's finances but had shattered the very foundation of my family. I had won the battle, but the war had left deep, irreparable scars. In the aftermath, life slowly began to reform, but it was irrevocably altered. The conservator took over Mom's affairs, bringing order and transparency to the chaos Beth had created. Mom's remaining funds were carefully managed, ensuring she received the best care and that her original bequests to the charity and church would eventually be honored. It was a small comfort, knowing her true wishes would finally be respected. Beth, despite the court order, has repaid very little of the stolen money. She declared bankruptcy, claiming she had no assets. I knew it was another maneuver, another way to evade responsibility. She never apologized, never acknowledged the harm she caused. Our relationship, once so close, is now a void. We haven't spoken since that day in court, and I don't foresee us ever speaking again. The silence between us is deafening, filled with the ghosts of broken trust and shattered memories. Mom, thankfully, is mostly oblivious to the legal drama. Her world is smaller now, focused on the immediate present, but she is safe and cared for. I visit her often, bringing her flowers, telling her stories, trying to bridge the gap that her memory can no longer span. Sometimes, she'll ask about Beth, a fleeting shadow of confusion crossing her face, and I simply say, "Beth is fine, Mom." What else can I say? This experience taught me a brutal truth: the people closest to you are sometimes capable of the deepest betrayals. It taught me to be vigilant, to question, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It cost me my sister, but it saved my mother's dignity and ensured her final wishes would be honored. The pain lingers, a dull ache that reminds me of what was lost. But so too does the resolve to live with integrity, to never let greed poison the well of trust, and to always, always fight for what's right. It was an earned ending, one forged in the fires of a betrayal that reshaped my understanding of family forever. The wounds of that betrayal still ache, a constant reminder of how easily trust can shatter, especially within the sanctuary of family. It cost me my sister, a relationship I once cherished, but it also taught me to stand firm for what's right, even when it's agonizingly difficult. Mom's wishes, her legacy, will now be honored, and for that, the fight was worth it. If you've ever faced a betrayal that reshaped your world, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found strength in this story, consider subscribing to Dark Truths for more tales of resilience in the face of life's hardest lessons.